good. Okay, so basically I just hopped out of the shower. My hair is kind of like drying at the moment, but I didn't do anything with it, so it kind of looks like kind of bleh. But I spent like an hour trying to fix my camera. I think my camera's officially broken. I bought it when I was like 14, so it's kind of lasted a pretty long time, so I'm not that upset, but it's kind of sad because I use that camera to take my Depop photos, so it's gonna be difficult having to like balance my iPhone on a tripod. I don't know, I'll have to figure this out somehow. Like the title says, this video is basically why I speak the way that I do. Apparently I speak a little bit different on camera, and I think I just speak differently with a different audience as well. Firstly, I'd have to explain where I grew up, how I grew up, I guess, and first of all, I just want to put out there that I've traveled a lot as a child, so my accent has changed multiple times all over the place. Let me start here. I was born in the Philippines in a little island called Cebu. We stayed there for a couple months, maybe a year, and then we moved to China, and at that point I was still a baby, so I don't have much memories from then. And then we moved over to Sydney in Australia, and those were my first memories. I grew up in Australia until I was 9 years old. Yeah, until I was 9 years old I grew up in Australia. I had an Australian accent. If I watch old videos of mine, I had an Australian accent, but because I watch TV, I had a little bit of an American, I use some American terms as well, so, but primarily my accent was Australian. When I was about 9, I moved to Thailand, which was where my dad was living, and my dad has an Indonesian wife, so I ended up moving with those two with my brother as well, and I started going to an international school in Thailand. So I had an Australian accent, I had Australian terms, I grew up in Australia, I considered myself an Australian, and there was only 8 people in my classroom, and I had a very, very strict American teacher. And not only was it the first male teacher I've ever had, it was the first teacher that cared about whether I did homework or not. It was the first teacher that wanted to discipline me. Because when I was in school in Australia, I was going through very difficult times. My mom didn't have a job, we didn't exactly have a stable house to live, so we weren't exactly going to school or doing homework or any of that type of stuff. So I was so shocked when I moved to Thailand. I was in this new international school where parents pay a lot for their children to go to this school, so I was required to do all these things that I didn't usually do, like homework and presentations and stuff like that, and even class participation. When I was in Australia, I never participated. I just sat in class and just kind of daydreamed. I remember he'd always make fun of my Australian accent, and he was also very violent towards us kids in a discipline matter. Like, he would hit our hands with rulers, he would slap our head if we weren't paying attention, he would grab us and stuff. But in Thailand, I guess that was kind of okay because other teachers did that as well. But I was terrified of this teacher. I was absolutely terrified of him. So many times I came home crying, like, this teacher literally bullies me. He makes fun of my accent, like he makes me feel like I can't be myself. And so there were so many times where I came home like crying on my dad's lap, like, please, I don't want to go to school, I don't want to go to school. And I think it was just a culture shock that suddenly every time I didn't do my homework, I was slapped or I was in a lot of trouble for not doing homework. So it was a big culture shock for me, and because I was tired of him picking on me, I kind of just purposely put on an American accent so he would stop making fun of my Australian accent. And I was only in his class for maybe 8-9 months until we moved to Malaysia. So we moved to Malaysia and I was starting to develop this mixture between Australian and American accent, and then I started going to school to an international school in Malaysia. My best friend there, she was Russian and she watched a lot of TV, so she had American slang, and so I kind of got my American slang from her, but everyone in our school, we were learning British English as well. And after being in Malaysia for about 2 years, then I moved to Taiwan, which I was in school there for 6 years. And by that point, I don't really know how my accent went. Like, I look at old videos and it was just like a mixture of Australian slang, British terms and American like slang as well. So the school I went to, I had a lot of British teachers. I was in the British section, so we were learning British English. But however, my best friend had a strong American accent, my other good friends had American accent, and all my closest friends were from the American school, so they also had American accents as well. So just hanging out with friends, watching TV kind of just brushed onto this American accent onto me. However, I've dated Americans in Taiwan, and they always said to me that I sounded Australian, or they said that I just didn't sound American in their opinion. To my friends, I don't really know, because what I would call my accent is a TCK accent, so a third culture kid accent. So what you guys don't really know, but this term TCK, which is third culture kid, which is what I am, is basically kids who live in expat community overseas, but they're in like a international community. So accents kind of just like blend and mesh into each other. So all my friends who moved around international school to international school actually had a very similar accent than I did. So we didn't really notice it off each other. However, after living in Taiwan, I moved to Australia, and no shit, every time I go to a servo, every time I go shopping or I go to the grocery store, any type of conversation I make with people, within the first sentence or two, they'll ask me, "Where's your accent from?" Sometimes it's so flattering, because I'm like, I can always talk to people because there's always something to talk about, because they always ask me about my accent. Mainly people here, they think I'm American or Canadian, and sometimes like if I'm standing in a group of people and I'm talking, someone who's new to the group will like stare at me for a couple minutes and then finally ask like, "Where's your accent from? I'm sorry, I can't catch it. Is it American or Canadian?" And then I have to sit there and be like, "I'm a TCK, which means I'm a third culture kid." And basically all my friends already know that spiel I have, that little pitch I have explaining where I am to people. It doesn't really bother me that people ask me a lot. But sometimes when I go grocery shopping and I don't really feel like talking to people, when people ask me where I'm from, I'll just say, "I'm from America." Just because they automatically assume that I am. What pisses me off the most, or what kind of like ticks me off the most, is when people say, "Are you from Canada or America?" And they give me two options, and I'm like, I haven't been to America, I haven't been to Canada, never grew up there, my parents aren't from there. By the way, so my dad's from Finland and my mom's from Philippines. My dad speaks Finnish, and he has a thick Finnish accent, but he speaks fluent English as well. English is the language we've always spoken at home. My mom speaks Tagalog, and she speaks fluent English. Yeah, so when I speak to my mom, I speak to her in English as well. I haven't learned Finnish, and I haven't learned Tagalog, because I lived sometimes with my mom and sometimes with my dad, so it's always like changed around. Languages, I know a little bit of Spanish. I had a Spanish pen pal. I did Spanish for 5 years in high school, and I know a little bit of Mandarin because I grew up in Taiwan. However, I did not put that much effort in learning Mandarin, although I wish I did. The reason behind that is because when I first lived in Thailand, I was learning Thai, and within 9 months I had to move, so all my Thai was just like useless to me. When I moved to Malaysia, I was learning Malay, and within 2 years I had to move, so I was like, all the Malay I was learning came out of use. So when I moved to Taiwan, I didn't really bother with learning with Mandarin, just because I thought that we were gonna move, so I didn't really pay that much attention to learning the language, although I do remember a lot of Mandarin. So I think my favorite thing about my accent is just that I can talk to people just because of my accent. Like, surprisingly, I make so many good conversations with people just because I have this accent. The reason why I'm actually making this video is because my accent is moving from what it was, which was more American, I am assuming, into more Australian, because I did move here almost 2 years ago. So, and my boyfriend's Australian, all my friends are Australian, so it is rubbing off onto me. However, the one problem that I do have with this accent kind of rubbing off onto me is that a lot of you guys are noticing it. When I watch my old videos, I can definitely tell that I'm getting more of an Australian accent, although nobody here in Australia thinks that I have an Australian accent. When I film videos, apparently I sound a lot more American. Like, my friends say that when they watch my videos, I sound a lot more American, and I think it could just be because when I pull out my camera and I talk to my camera, I'm talking to you guys, and you guys are an audience. So like if I talk to someone who's American, I'll use American slang. If I talk to someone who's Australian, I'll use Australian slang. And because most of my audience aren't from Australia, I don't have that Australian slang, although apparently I do according to some comments. I'm also going to be doing the accent tag at the moment because I've done this accent tag maybe 2 years ago when I was living in Taiwan, and I want to see how much it has changed. Just notice that my accent hasn't fully developed to become what it is. Like that's why sometimes I mumble so much, because I'm moving different accents, and so sometimes I might like sound completely weird because I'm just trying to like get used to this new accent that I'm like having. So the words for the accent tag is aunt, roof, root, wash, oil, theater, iron, salmon, caramel, fire, water, sure, data, ruin, crayon, New Orleans, pecan, both, again, probably, spitting image, Alabama, lawyer, coupon, mayonnaise, syrup, pajamas, caught, naturally, aluminium, envelope. And the questions here. What is it called when you throw toilet paper on a house? Being a fucking asshole. What is the bug that when you touch it, it curls into a ball? Centipede or millipede? What is the bubbly carbonated drink called? Fizzy drink! What do you call gym shoes? Runners? Yeah, I think runners. What do you say to address a group of people? Hola, everybody! Or like just like guys. What do you call the kind of spider or spider-like creature that has an oval-shaped body and extremely long legs? Daddy long legs. What do you call your grandparents? I call my grandpa Mano Papa, and I call my grandma Maire Mama. What do you call the wheeled contraption in which you carry groceries at the supermarket? Trolley. What do you call when it rains while the sun is shining? I remember answering this question before and someone told me what it meant in their area, but I don't really have a name for that, I'm sorry. What is the thing you change the TV channel with? A remote? Yep, so that's the accent tag, so I just briefly went through that in case you guys are curious. My guinea pigs are like running around my room right now, so if you hear some noise, just like ignore them. But yeah, so I do have a Finnish passport. I have Australian permanent residency because I did grow up here. I think I have a Taiwanese resident card, but because my dad's not working there anymore, it might not be valid anymore. So this is kind of like how my accent has like developed and changed. Also a little bit about me and my past and where I grew up. If you guys want to do me a favor, it would mean so much to me if you see a comment where someone's asking, where's Anna from? You can explain. You can just be like, oh, she's a TCK, her dad's from Finland, her mom's from Philippines, but she grew up all over the place. That would be kind of cool. Or even just link them to this video because a lot of people have these questions. Hi guys, okay, so for this video I also want to give a huge thank you to my patrons. So a big thank you to David C. Thank you so much for supporting me throughout all these months. I've been meaning to catch up with you soon. Big thank you to Madison M. It was so good chatting with you just the other day. I enjoyed our chat so much. Thank you so much for letting me be honest and open with you guys. Same with Desiree. Thank you so much. I chatted with you today. I had the chillest chat. You have two of the cutest guinea pigs, and it was so awesome talking with you today. Also, big thank you to Darren. Thank you, Darren, for supporting me. And I did give him a shout out in one of my other videos before. Big shout out to Hannah. I messaged you on Patreon asking if you wanted to Skype, but I haven't got a response. Big thank you to Isabel as well. Big thank you to Demi. Demi, you're awesome. I always read all the tweets you send me. And big thank you to Lauren. At this current moment, I just added you on Skype, so I'm willing to come chat with you soon. But yeah, so those are my patrons for this month. Thank you guys.